This is a video I have been holding off on forever because I'm ashamed to make it. And honestly, I haven't even touched the Corvette in probably since May or April of last year. The battery's dead on it. I've had to pump up a couple of the tires a couple times. There's spiders all over it in the engine compartment. But that's all ending today. We're going to do a Corvette video, and it's something that's got a lot of videos on the internet about this, so this isn't the only place you'll find this information, but we're going to fix the headlights not flipping up today. So guys, so stay tuned. It should be a really quick video. I'm only going to show the highlights because most of it is very self-explanatory. Guys, to complete this repair, all I needed, or all you will need, is going to be a ratchet. You don't even need two ratchets, but I did use two. 15 millimeter deep well, 10 millimeter. I also use deep well, and then a 1/4 inch. You'll need a T30. You can either use a screwdriver, or I use a combination of screwdriver and drill driver, but it'll need to be a T30. You'll need a small hammer and something to use as a punch. A punch works the best, but I use this bolt that was the exact size of the roll pin that you have to punch out. That's it. Of course, you'll need a little bit of grease for the gears. You'll need new gears. These are my old gears. If you're doing the passenger side, the driver's side as well, but the passenger side. If you're doing the driver's side, all you'll need this. You won't need the T30s because all you're going to do is use a Dremel or a file to clearance that one little bracket. Then use your 1/4 inch to remove the cover, and then you can access everything you need. I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. I've already done the driver's side, but we'll take a look at it. So the first thing you got to do is take your headlights out. This headlight comes out both sides with actually 7 different points. There's 4 nuts that go on these studs. There are 2 screws that go in down here, and then there will be a bolt that goes through here that has a little L bracket that looks like this. Now this side had this bracket, the other side didn't. These headlights have been taken out of this car before. Of course, I've said on the channel before, this car has been probably totaled at least once. I imagine there's lots of parts that have been taken off and removed and everything else. You can see how disgusting this car is. I feel ashamed. So guys, I have already done that headlight. And in some of the other videos, they'll take it out, they'll remove the whole drive unit there and then fix it. You don't have to do that on the driver's side. You don't have to take any of the drive unit out. All you've got to do is remove the headlight so you can get to it. Realistically, you could do it without even removing the headlight, but it's easier just to remove the headlight. And then what you'll see me working on the other headlight here in a minute is this unit right here. And all you've got to do to get to this gear, which is the gear we're replacing, is take these 3 little bolts out. One of them is shrouded by this bracket, and all you've got to do on the driver's side is clearance that bracket with a file, and that bolt will still come out. To change the gear in that headlight, you've got your 6 bolts holding the headlight to the vehicle, and then the 3 small bolts holding the cover onto that drive unit. Now the passenger side is a little more complicated because the drive unit is turned around and facing this way, so the bolts that you'd have to take out to get to the gear are actually facing in on this whole bracketry. So you will have to remove the drive unit from the passenger side. That doesn't sound like a big deal, except for the fact that this screw right here that we'll have to take out to get it out of the bracketry is also covered up. Luckily, the bolts that hold this whole thing on are slotted. That one's slotted, and this one back here is not. It's just a regular bolt, but you can take this one out, and then you can loosen this one that's slotted, and the whole unit will just slide out. You can access this slotted one by turning your headlight. You can see my headlight, I actually have it turned by using this knob to where this is out of the way, this block is out of the way, and you can get a screwdriver right down in there into it. So I've already loosened that screw, fixing to take that one out, and we'll see what that looks like. So I've got those 2 screws out. Now you can see how this is rotated down and out. So I've already taken this bolt out, which is a T30, looks like that. I've taken the long one on the other side out, which is a T30, looks like that. It was in this location. You can see there's 3 bolts holding this drive unit in. Now I'm going to take this one out. I should have mentioned, before you take those out, you're going to tap this roll pin out. You can see this roll pin's already halfway tapped out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that roll pin all the way, and then the drive unit will pop right out. Once you get all that loose, if you tap right here on that shaft, it should just come right out, or you can wiggle it. And now I've got the drive assembly out, and I can access the 3 screws. So these little bolts are 1/4, at least that's what I'm using. I assume they could be a 6.5 or something like that. Once you get those 3 out, you'll have to pull this cover off. Now here's where the gear and the little 3 bearings, plastic bearings, reside. Be careful here, it should come out of a little thing here. There might be some shims in here. If there are, you don't want to lose those shims. Alright, so immediately you can see all this dust. That is either the gear or the bearings just shredding. And you can see the gear doesn't look too bad, but all that dust has clogged up all the teeth in the gear. So nothing's holding this in on the other side. It'll feel like it though, because this worm gear will still be engaged if this isn't stripped all the way out. And you can see mine wasn't stripped out. Problem with mine is there's no more bearings. So that's what all that dust is. And that is generally the failure point. The failure point isn't generally the gear, it's the bearings. Here's an example of the shim I was talking about. It was on the bottom. Make sure those remain located where they need to be located. There may be shims on this piece as well. And yeah, so you can see there's actually multiple shims on that side. And that's just like shimming a rear end. You want those gears to mesh properly. So there's what's left of the bearings. Alright, I'm going to clean all this out, make sure it's nice and clean. Make sure this is all nice and clean. You can see my gasket has a failure out there. I don't have another gasket, so we'll just see what I have to do right there. I might put a little dab of RTV or something. This isn't necessarily a waterproof assembly. You can see a hole right here that goes into the worm gear. That's for lubrication purposes. So it's not necessarily a watertight assembly. You still want to make sure that foreign objects can't get in there, and you know. So I'm ready to reinstall my new gear, and yes, I am using another plastic gear. I get it. Learn from your mistakes. Plastic gears tend to last several years. They do make brass gears. Some people really like that. They are pricey. But I'm very cheap, and y'all should know that by now if you've been watching my videos. All right, so it's time for reassembly. This is a very tight fit on this gear right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that shim back off so I don't lose it. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this gear down on there. Once it pops on there, it'll pop on there. You just got to give it a little hell. Guys, one thing that wasn't in that last clip, I actually had to pull it back apart, was I forgot to put grease in it. Necessarily call for grease, but some beauty waterproof grease in here in the bearings and in the gear itself. You're putting this back in. It may get wedged a little bit. You're going to have to tap on this side a little bit to get it past the worm gear to make sure the worm gear meshes with the actual sprocket. Get that done. Don't forget to put the shim on the back side. I did put the shim on the back side. I've got the front side shims on, and now I'm ready to put the cap back on. Reinstall your 3/4 inch bolts. Make sure they're tight, but don't over tighten them. This is just some pot metal. Time to reinstall the drive unit. Install it back in the block, and there's going to be this piece right here that will wind up falling. It goes between the block and the drive unit itself. It goes on top with this bend going out this way, so it's installed like this. If you get that upside down, your light's not going to run all the way out or in. Align the frame and everything like you had it, or else it's not really going to want to mesh together. So remember, I had my frame up when I took it apart. Use my little knob to turn the frame back down if it's easier to work on once I get it kind of meshed together. Then put a couple of the bolts in to hold it all together. You don't have to tighten everything up yet, just to kind of hold everything together, because we're fixing to tap that roll pin back in. Kind of an FYI, this wire needs to run under this bolt like that. That's the way everything lines up. I don't have a punch the right size for this roll pin, so I'm having to make do with what I have. My biggest punch is just a little bit too small. The roll pin in, you can readjust the light as needed to get the slotted bolt back in and to run this bolt in as well. You can run the slotted bolt back in and run your front bolt back in, and you should be back together. Alright, that should be it. I should be able to reinstall it now using the 4 nuts on the sides, the 2 screws on the bottom, and then that one little L bracket. Guys, let's see if that works. I got the hood up, but the lights will still turn. Ooh, that's bright. Yes! I now have functioning lights. Guys, that is literally all there is to fixing these headlights. It's a super simple process. It may seem daunting at first, but with just a few minor tools, just a few minutes of your time, it literally took me about 20 minutes on the passenger side and only about 10 to 15 minutes on the driver's side to get it all removed, fixed, and put back into place. So you can do it all in under an hour, both sides in under an hour. Video helped. Stay tuned for some more videos coming up. We're going to lower the rear end of the Corvette about 1 inch. We're going to start thinking about getting it prepped for paint. I'll talk about that. And then the Jeep will be installing the front locker next in it. And I also have an update on the car hauling trailer. I went this past weekend to get a new update, and it is flooding again at the lake. It really is bad, but enough to where I didn't have time to do that. I had to do some other things. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.